but they ended up being delayed by 9 days after the spacecraft they were going to travel back in was hit by space debris, causing tiny cracks to a viewport window.
The path of human space exploration is not smooth. It's filled with difficulties and challenges.
A spacecraft that was supposed to bring 3 Chinese astronauts home now stays behind in orbit, damaged by space debris. Instead, the Shenzhou-20 crew has just ridden a different capsule back through the atmosphere and onto the steppe of Inner Mongolia, landing safely after more than 6 months on the Tiangong space station. Today's story is part space rescue, part engineering case study, and part warning about the future of low Earth orbit. So what exactly happened to Shenzhou-20? And what does this mean for China's Tiangong space station and for human spaceflight worldwide? China's Shenzhou-20 mission launched on 24th April 2025 atop a Long March 2F rocket from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, carrying 3 taikonauts, Commander Chen Dong, Chen Zhongrui, and Wang Ji, to the Tiangong space station. They docked with the Tianhe core module the same day, beginning a planned 6-month stay aboard China's permanently inhabited orbital outpost. During their mission, the Shenzhou-20 crew helped operate Tiangong, conducted scientific experiments, and performed multiple spacewalks, including work to install additional debris shields on the station's exterior. Their return to Earth was originally expected around November 5, 2025, in a tightly choreographed handover with the arriving Shenzhou-21 crew. That is when the routine timeline broke. Just as the crew were preparing to come home, mission controllers spotted a problem with their ride. In early November, China's Human Spaceflight Agency reported that Shenzhou-20's return mission had been delayed after the spacecraft was possibly hit by tiny bits of orbital debris. Later, the China Manned Space Agency confirmed what engineers were seeing: tiny cracks in a small viewport window on the return capsule, most likely caused by an external impact from space debris. For a crewed re-entry, those words, tiny cracks, are a huge red flag. Even hairline fractures in a window can weaken the structure under the extreme heat and pressure of atmospheric re-entry, when the capsule slams into dense air at roughly 7 to 8 kilometers per second. After risk analysis, the agency made the conservative call. The Shenzhou-20 capsule does not meet the safety requirements for a crewed return and will remain in orbit as an uncrewed spacecraft for further experiments. Which raises the obvious question: if your own return capsule is no longer safe, how do you get home? Every Shenzhou mission to Tiangong is designed with overlap. An incoming crew arrives before the old crew leaves, so that 2 capsules are docked at the station at the same time. In this case, Shenzhou-21 launched on October 31, 2025, to begin its own 6-month mission, and unexpectedly became a lifeboat. Under established safety protocols, if the current crew's spacecraft is too risky to use, the fresh vehicle can ferry the outgoing astronauts back to Earth instead. This is exactly what happened. After about 9 extra days in orbit, the Shenzhou-20 crew boarded Shenzhou-21, undocked from Tiangong, and began their return journey. Shortly before 3:45 a.m. Eastern Time on November 14, 2025, 4:40 p.m. in Beijing, the capsule touched down at the Dongfeng landing site in Inner Mongolia. Search and rescue teams quickly recovered Chen Dong, Chen Zhongrui, and Wang Ji, who were reported to be in good physical condition after roughly 204 days in space, a record-setting single-crew stay for China. The crew made it back safely. But now Tiangong is occupied by the Shenzhou-21 team without a currently flight-worthy capsule docked, at least until China launches the next backup vehicle. To understand what this incident really means, it helps to separate what we know from what we do not. What is solidly established from official and major media reports is clear. Shenzhou-20's return was delayed by a suspected space debris impact, the first time a Shenzhou cruise landing had slipped because of debris. Engineers found small cracks in a window of the return capsule and judged it unsafe for crewed re-entry. The Shenzhou-20 taikonauts rode home aboard Shenzhou-21 instead and landed safely at Dongfeng on November 14, 2025. Shenzhou-20 remains in orbit to support additional experiments, while a future Shenzhou-22 mission will be launched as a replacement return ship for the Shenzhou-21 crew. What we do not know yet includes the exact size, source, and orbit of the debris fragment that caused the damage. We do not know whether it came from an old rocket body, a defunct satellite, or a previous breakup event, and we do not yet have the detailed engineering assessment of how close Shenzhou-20 was to being repairable. Those unknowns matter for orbital debris modeling and future risk assessments. But even without them, this incident is already a textbook example of why space junk has become one of the biggest buzzwords in modern spaceflight. The phrase space debris sounds like dust, but it is anything but harmless. We are talking about abandoned rocket stages, dead satellites, and thousands of fragments from past explosions and anti-satellite tests, all whipping around Earth at several kilometers per second. Analyses suggest that tens of thousands of pieces of debris larger than a few centimeters are being tracked in orbit, and a huge fraction of them can be traced back to a few major events, mostly big breakups and destructive tests by the world's major space powers. At these speeds, even a paint chip can hit with the energy of a high-speed bullet, and a nut or bolt can behave like a small bomb on impact. Tiangong and the Shenzhou spacecraft already carry debris shielding, and Shenzhou-20's crew themselves installed extra shields during previous spacewalks. But no system can reduce the risk to zero, especially as low Earth orbit fills up with thousands of satellites and new constellations. This is why space agencies and commercial operators are so focused on tracking debris, predicting close passes, and sometimes firing thrusters to dodge trouble. The question now is whether Shenzhou-20's damaged window becomes the catalyst for stronger global rules and better cleanup technologies. Zooming out for a moment, Shenzhou-20 is part of a broader story, China's push to become a leading human spaceflight power. Tiangong, a 3-module station completed in 2022, is smaller than the International Space Station, but it is designed for continuous occupation and future expansion. Shenzhou-20 is the 9th crewed mission to the station, and its 204-day duration sets a new record for a single Chinese crew in orbit. The mission also fits into a timeline that includes plans to host international astronauts, including a guest from Pakistan, and to send Chinese taikonauts to the moon around the early 2030s. That context is crucial. For China's space program, this debris strike is not just a scare, it is a stress test of the system's redundancy, emergency planning, and long-term viability. The fact that the crew could safely transfer to Shenzhou-21 and return home demonstrates that those backup layers work in practice. But it also highlights a new vulnerability. For now, Tiangong is inhabited without its usual ready-to-go escape capsule docked, something China will want to fix quickly with the next mission. This is the first time a Shenzhou return mission has been delayed by space debris, and it follows years of rising concern over orbital traffic. China, the United States, Russia, and others have all contributed to the debris cloud through normal launches, accidental breakups, and deliberate anti-satellite tests. Officials from different countries have criticized each other's debris-creating actions, while international bodies have warned that overcrowded orbits could threaten everything from weather satellites to crewed missions. Panels at the United Nations and other forums have called for shared databases of orbital objects and for international rules to manage the situation before it becomes unmanageable. China is also investing in debris mitigation technologies, including concepts for deorbit devices and active junk removal. But Shenzhou-20 shows that even a modern station with fresh shielding and a robust logistics chain can be put on the defensive by a piece of metal no larger than your hand or even your fingernail. The takeaway is not that human spaceflight is unsafe. The lesson is that safety margins will depend more and more on how seriously the global community treats orbital cleanup and traffic management. For space fans and science news followers, there are a few key things to watch after the Shenzhou-20 debris incident. One is the launch window and profile for Shenzhou-22, which is expected to serve as a backup return vehicle for the Shenzhou-21 crew, and whose exact timing and configuration will be closely followed. Another is the technical analysis of the impact itself, including the trajectory, suspected source, and damage modeling for the cracked window, which may emerge in engineering briefings or scientific papers. A third is the policy response, whether space agencies and regulators use this incident as fresh evidence for stricter guidelines on satellite disposal and anti-satellite testing. Finally, there is the ongoing story of Tiangong's expansion and its openness to international partners, from new science modules to the first foreign astronaut to visit the station. Each of these milestones will show whether Shenzhou-20 becomes just a scary story with a happy ending, or a turning point in how we manage the near-Earth environment. In the end, the phrase China Shenzhou-20, debris hit, Tiangong crew returns safely today, is both a success story and a warning. It is a success because backup hardware, crew training, and mission planning worked as designed, bringing 3 astronauts safely home after a record-long mission. It is a warning because a tiny fragment of space junk was enough to sideline a modern return capsule and leave a space station temporarily without its usual lifeboat. As more nations and companies launch satellites, constellations, and crewed missions, the risks that Shenzhou-20 encountered will not stay unique. For viewers who love space, this is the new normal, inspiring missions, dramatic rescues, and a quiet but urgent race to clean up Earth's orbital neighborhood. The Shenzhou-20 crew's safe landing is a reminder that smart engineering and cautious decision-making can still beat the odds, even in a sky increasingly filled with our own debris.